This meeting is being live streamed.
Hey,
So we are back. It's Sunday night. It's my birthday. And I'm still
what?
podcasting.
It's what?
It's my
It's his birthday.
birthday today of all
How old are you?
days.
42.
Yeah, old now, mate. I'm gonna die soon. I'm that old.
I'm dying slowly, getting there. Dan's younger. We'll nick some of his youth like that film.
Yeah, mate. So today we are talking about batteries in lofts. We're talking about my energy. We're talking about anything that's been in the news this week. So join us for the podcast of doom. Anyway, Jamie, do you want to do CA first?
I don't know. Are you doing your thing still?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'll roll straight into that then. See my fingers on that button. There you go.
This is not a sponsor. Let's be clear. This is a public service announcement. Many moons ago, I was at an Alex and I asked Hager, and the person who wrote the book on AFDDs, I said to the man, your AFDDs don't appear to be functioning as they should. What would you say to electricians who listen to my podcast to instill some confidence back into your product and they're thinking about your products? And do you know what he said? Don't buy them. So this is a public service announcement. Don't buy them. And that's coming from Hager. Jamie.
And on that bombshell, Chev and Arnu are your number one people to go to if you want to test, monitor, analyze something, do that kind of thing. They've got all the Gucci gear. I've got some out there now doing its business, chugging away on an EV charge that keeps breaking. Dan's got some gear. What's your gear chugging away on, Dan?
We're currently logging a farm for usage.
There you go. What, to size up a battery for their loft?
Solar and battery.
Solar and battery. I've got one chugging away on an EV charge because it keeps cutting out an under voltage, and the manufacturer, which is not who you think it is, refused to admit that it's going out an under or over voltage. Well, I'm going to prove that. And I like doing that kind of thing. So if you want to prove something to do with that voltage, current, power, energy, all that stuff they do, they're the number one people to go to for all that. My promise is you'll get the same service I get. And I've yet to honestly have anyone, Dan's on the nine, he's got one that's come back and said, I'm unhappy with the service I've got. So fair play.
They've sent me
Tell you what?
They've sent me some bits this week that I asked for on Instagram.
Oh, there you go then. They look after their customers.
Oh. Just before we go any further, I want to talk about some T-shirts. Has everyone received their T-shirt yet? Let me know in the live chat. I sent them all out this week. There's only one person who I haven't sent them out to, so we've got to sort that out. Eh?
I get one for being a guest, don't I?
No. And they are incredible, amazing, insane quality. And they should be with you by now. And next week, we're doing the new drop. It's a design from my own head. It's not to everyone's taste. This is going to be by no means as popular as the last one, but I love it. Also, the wanking chair T-shirt is going to be dropping in the next couple of months. It comes straight from Jamie's head.
Hang on a minute. Isn't that my copyright?
Yeah, it is.
All right, you just nicked it. Fair enough.
Well, no, it's for you, you idiot. This is your job. This is your bag now. So we are going to be producing Jamie's wanking chair T-shirt, and that also is going to be incredible.
On the cotton reserved for the linens of high-end hotels, I hear.
It's going to be amazing. I've spent a long time designing it under
my creative guidance, I think we're calling it.
Yes, that is correct. You're gonna have to really shape up today, Jamie, because I'm a little bit hanging because I've been drinking Guinness all day. So you're just gonna have to, like, I don't know, up your game a little bit.
The good news is it's quite technical tonight. Dan's come on to be technical with me, so you can just sit there and ride it out.
Shut up.
Or you could maybe come out with like one nugget of wisdom and change the electrical industry again. I don't know.
I'd do that often, you know.
I don't want him to be doing that again. It's getting a bit too regular. What we're going to do now is the news, yeah? What we're doing this week is we're trying it in a unique audio format. Nothing to do with the fact that the graphics computer just blown up and I haven't written the news. It's just to try it in an audio format to see how that goes. So, news one. This is off LinkedIn, and I appreciate your input.
Why have you put that silly graphic up, bruv?
Just because to prove that I haven't fixed the computer properly. I'll put it back if you want.
Put back the VT, man.
what Sam gets really Fred with bad graphics. He's very creative, and if you do bad graphics, he does not like it. I'll read this one. This is off LinkedIn this week. I'd like to everyone's opinions on this because this particularly tickled me. National minimum wage is going up again this month, which is great, right? We're not knocking that. It's a trend that we're seeing is unskilled workers' wages getting closer to skilled workers' wages.
Yeah.
Looking on Indeed, the money being offered for pipe fitters, because this guy's a pipe fitter machine, so it's the example I've got. I'm reading it verbatim off this thing. Looking on Indeed, the money being offered for pipe fitters has dropped by a couple of pounds an hour. Pipe fitters' mates are on £18 to £20 an hour, and pipe fitters are on £22 to £25 an hour. Is it worth the school and the responsibility, the headaches, and the thinking for everyone else? Because I'm guessing they're paying about 15 quid an hour in Audi, aren't they now?
So what I do know is with the electrical industry, something quite strange happens. So in times when there's not much work going on, electrical companies will employ mates more. I don't know why, because the thinking would be they'll employ sparks more because they can get them cheaper.
Yes,
But they don't. So. They don't. They employ more mates, and they employ them at a better rate. So essentially, you can get a electrician's mate or an improver, which doesn't actually mean anything anymore. To be, you could get them for about 17 to 18 quid an hour, and then an electrician you could get for like 20, £22 an hour.
Diving into this a little bit more, yeah, because I'm keen to this week because you know these mates. Mates, I'm doing the asterisk marks for the quotation marks people.
The electrician's mate.
You know these electrician's mates, right? I saw a guy the other day going, "Oh, I'm an electrician's mate. I'm looking for work, and I've got a 2391." First of all, it's like for a start, if you're a mate and you've got a 2391, there's something fucking wrong there.
No, but that's so historically, you could go and do a 2391 and turn up to site and say, "I only do testing."
Right, yeah, but what I'm saying is, I was an electrician's mate just going to use a 2391 qualification because you're going to say, well, he's not an electrician. But anyway, I digress. What I'm saying is these mates seem to be, I'm not being rude about this, I'm being genuine here. These mates seem to be electricians on everything but paper. It's like, you know, the people that were a bit lazy at college and never quite finished the course off and they didn't get their MVQ level 3 or didn't do the AM2, yeah? So they are, these people range from absolute fucking shysters who shouldn't be near a set of tools in the world, all the way up to people that are better or top end sparks, yeah? We'll just say top end sparks, right? And they seem to be able to take mates rate.
It's rare. It's rare. If you find someone who's not had the wherewithal to go and get their final qualification to get their gold card in the commercial, not saying gold card's king, but in industrial and commercial, if you turn up to site and you haven't got a gold card, you ain't getting paid like a spark 9 times out of 10.
Right. So the question is now is, one, right, because I've done this, right? I applied for a job. There's a university near me, like literally 2 minutes up the road, and there was only some halls built, and there's an electrician's mate's job going, and it was £20 an hour, second fixing. And I was like, I will drive up the top of my road for a few weeks and just second fix, yeah? And they wouldn't take me on because they said, you've got too much experience. Like, fair enough, but like, why can't I take a lower job? I don't get it. Anyway, then the other flip side of it is, there are mates out there that don't want to do a hard job, just want to be a mate, get the responsibility of a mate. Then there are mates out there that are full-blown sparkers that these companies know exist, and they can employ them to do basically electrician's work without paying them for it.
Yeah.
That is a big problem. I know there's a respectable firm. I spoke to on LinkedIn the other day. They'll know they are because we discussed this. And he mentioned it saying, I said I was working somewhere, and he said, I've worked there. And I was like, oh, yeah. Who you work for? And he went, oh, this company. I'm trying not to give the game away here. And then, oh, yeah, I used to work for them. I left them because I got sick of working there. And there was 3 sparks, and all they kept doing was employ more mates to get the job done. So the spark is getting more stress because they're pushing all these mates around that don't know what they're doing, but varies from not.
So you can like
not doing what they're
doing. The thing you find with mates is they've got the most massive chip on their shoulder because they have all this. Knowledge and stuff because you can get people who've been mates for 25 years. working as an electrician's mate for 25 years. So they probably know as much as someone with a gold card, but because they haven't had the wherewithal, the discipline, and the kick up the arse to go and get that gold card, they never get the respect that they probably deserve. And
Rightly
because
so.
of you haven't done the rite of passage, of course. And so they always have this chip on their shoulder where they, oh, I'm better than an electrician. So they do everything to try and embarrass an electrician. They do all this bollocks to embarrass electricians and show that they're actually better than them. They're always the biggest dickheads on site.
I'm not going to argue with you. I think that's a fair. If you're a mate and you can do a Sparky's job, you're a dickhead, aren't you? Because responsibility is what makes people flower into top end tradesmen.
Yeah. Yeah, and Zap Electrical says something quite quite on point here. Quite a few people I meet on sites who are really good at containment, but pretty much that's all they do are just mates. When I left college, and I went straight out on the agency circuit, I was just doing containment for like 3 or 4 years, and I got so good at it. But I couldn't. And then one day I got dropped into a basement to wire some conduit. I didn't have the first fucking clue what to do. And I was like, and I'm standing there and I was like, I'm never being in this position again. So I just stopped. I stopped all that sort of work. Stopped doing containment for like 2 or 3 years. Really threw myself into wiring conduit, wiring lighting systems, wiring BMS, all that sort of stuff, because I didn't want to be that guy who turns up and goes, I'm a metal muncher, mate. I only do metal munching.
Metal munching, you know, really. I mean, I know I don't want to take work off Sparkies, right? But, you know, just doing metal munching, you're not a sparker.
No, you're not.
The idea behind that is you go on a site, you do the first fix, do the containment, then you come back and you wire it. Yeah. On big jobs, what they do now is they have a crew plowing ahead doing the metal work, a crew following behind the sparking work, and obviously you get stuck in that trap. But it is a sorry state of affairs, and they've tried to take it off Sparks a few times, haven't they? And have these containment people that just do containment, but I don't know. But anyway, the general gist was, before of this mad tangent, literally. I don't know if you want to tell me in the chat yet. And if you want to do a survey this week, just let me know what your, I don't know, your kids or your wives on at work. Yeah, say they work in Aldi or something like that, or they've got some like. The terminology is low skilled, isn't it? You know what I mean? But I'm not being derogatory about people.
Unskilled. It's called unskilled labour.
Yeah. I'm not, but not in a derogatory way. It's just like
no, but that's what. Yeah, but that's what it's referred to on the site.
Yeah.
Is it unskilled labour?
You what? Sorry, Dan.
Something without a qualification behind it.
Yeah, something like that. Just let me know what they're on, because like I'm sure people in Eldon are on 15 quid an hour on the tills, and that's only fucking £6 an hour behind Sparks.
And Nick Pearson.
I'm saying Sparks, but I mean trades. So
Nick Pearson makes a good point. Almost every other trade gets paid more than electricians now on site, and it's true.
A tangent again, right? And it's tangent news tonight, right? I was doing a little bit of research on this week and looking into this, right? And I think the popular jobs that people think make loads of money are gas and sparkies, traditionally, right? Gas people and corgi people and sparkies, right? I hear.
Go on, carry on. Sorry.
Go on, Dad, because your mic takes a few seconds to cut in. Go on, what was you going to say?
I was going to say it just goes back to that Australian lads that have just done that TikTok reel with fuck, it's the Sparky.
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy with it.
Well, yeah, because we said, I don't know if we were, but I think a lot of firms went, oh, you can train to be a Sparky man, 60 grand a year, which is a load of bollocks. Now, the gas people are moaning because I think this is off a Nagy show. I think it's off Thomas Nagy's show. You know, I'll just reference it.
Don't listen to that. He's not.
Did say it though, right? And he says he's seen a sign in a window of a rental place in London. It says EICRs and gas checks 70 quid. And he's like, who is going and doing that for 70 quid? So the the gas servicing man, they've had their stuff pitched because it seems a good job, yeah. The thing about chippies is, you know, a good chippy, you can't just go to college and be a chippy. You've got to learn the skill. And although there are some skills in electrical, I'd say a chippy's more skilled with his hands.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
A good 50 grand.
Yes and no, mate. Like, if you are a proper, well-rounded spark, the things you can create and build using metal and all the techniques going into cutting and shaping and understanding where to place structural bits and stuff like that. Like you have to be pretty
Oh
spot on.
yeah. But what I'm saying is it's like skiing and snowboarding, isn't it? One of them's easy to learn and one of them's hard to master. One of them's hard to master, one of them's easy to learn. I'd say with chipping, it's very hard. There's a lot more lead up to being good because you've got to work with wood that you can fuck up easily. Whereas spark, if you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Obviously, at the top end of stuff, it's harder, but I just think that people think the least work and the highest reward is sparking, and I'm afraid at the minute. Well, not for me. I have to sit in a normal spark shoes here, yeah. But I think from the stuff I have from the industry, that is not the case. Like people are coming in, wading in, but there's still a skill shortage. I don't know what's going on, mate. I can't work it out. It's such a complicated situation.
Like it doesn't take a lot to be and I say this all the time. Just before I carry on, I really do like Thomas Nagy. I think he's awesome. I don't listen to his podcast because I don't like competition. Anyway, just get back to it. You can just like I always say this because customers ask, oh, it's like they always question you about they know someone who can do electrics and stuff like that. You always have these conversations, and my stock answer is electrics is really easy, but it's just as easy to mess it up, and then it's really hard to fix your mistake.
It's stagnant.
It's just as easy as doing gas until it goes wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because these people, like, they're like, oh yeah, I had a go at wiring the light. I put all the blacks in with all the reds, and now it's not working. You're like, it's
That's
really easy until it's not.
My second most popular phone call. I think, I think the people that are, you know, the retrainers, the late joiners, and all that. I've got no against them. I think they stagnate. I think those people, and there seems to be more of those than there is apprentices now because no firm wants to pay for an apprentice. Everyone wants to get someone in early. Self-trainers, yeah. Self-trainers, people who pay for their own training, people that retrain, they stagnate in the lower echelons of sparking. So they stay domestic, commercial, industrial, yeah. They don't move on, which is why at the top end of sparking, in electrical engineering, there's demand for loads of people in like energy distribution, power distribution, generation, yeah. But there's no demand in the normal sparky sphere, which is what they sell you at a craft college.
I think you're right because it's quite easy to go and become a entry level spark. But if you want to be a really good spark, you have or a well-rounded spark, should I say, you have to put the time in. There's no substitute for time and experience. So when I go on, and one of the things that used to do me the most when I used to walk on site, I've got 20 years under my belt. I walk on site next to someone who's been in it 5 years, and they're getting paid the same as me because we're based on our card and not on our experience. So I have to sit next to someone who's been doing it 5 minutes and telling me, or the supervisor has been doing it 5 minutes. He's trained recently. He's mates with the boss. He's putting me out as a supervisor, and now he's telling me how to do my job because he's got a chip on his shoulder because he's not an electrician, telling electricians how much better he is than them, and all that sort of stupid shit used to drive me mad. Now I don't have that problem anymore. I'm happy. I don't need to worry about those untrained dickheads because I won't have them anywhere near me.
This is the only news we're going to do tonight because it's really got everyone going, and I'd like to revisit it. So if you've got anything to say on this, let me know. Yeah, but I just don't think people are moving in because, you know, when you've trained yourself or paid for your own college or retrained, you want to get into a job and pay that money back. You don't want to then be learning about controls engineering or motors or something like that. And that's why you stagnate. Go on, Dan, sorry, because you got the delay.
I've looked at employing people this year, and I have opted to go down the people that have paid for their own training.
You've opted for that?
Yeah, just because they tend to be a bit older. They tend to have a bit more of self-conscious towards the work they want to do. I think I may be wrong. I don't know.
Selfishly, then, if they do sit and stagnate with you, you'll be happy, won't they? Because they won't leave. So that's a bonus for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a bonus for any electrical contractor who's a big firm. Because if you've got someone, well, now you've said that, if you've got 10 sparks that have paid for their own training and paying it back and need to pay the mortgage, they're going to stop with you because they've fucking got the golden handcuffs.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Having worked with all different levels, there is no one better than, say, 35-year-old who's got a family, retrained, really keen to do a good job. They know that they haven't got the time or the effort. They haven't got the time to be able to learn it. So they've got to work twice as hard to get it in. And when I done my apprenticeship quite late, and I wanted to be better than I was. So I used to work twice as fast. So as if I messed anything up, I had time to fix it in the same amount of time it took other people to do stuff.
You also feel it was something you had to prove.
Of course, you do have to prove. And the thing is, but I was so obsessed with getting my gold card. I wanted that gold card. And when people, at the beginning, when people said, oh, it takes 4 years to get, I was like, fuck. But I needed it because I didn't want to be that guy on site who's 40 years old and doesn't have a gold card, walks around moaning because, oh, I should be on more money. I should be an electrician. I know as much as everyone else. When you just don't have the credibility because you don't have that card. And although now I'm in domestic and stuff like that, and I work for myself, I really don't have to worry about my gold card anymore. I probably won't renew it.
I was going to ask, if your gold card expired tomorrow, would you renew it?
I don't need to.
I keep mine renewed.
Mine expired 2 years ago, and I've only just renewed it this week. But that's for a contract we've just taken on.
I keep mine in check, but I mean, it's not a biggie. But I just like to have my admin on in case someone comes through the door.
I think I might be the same as you, Jamie. I think I might just like to have it. Do you know what I mean? I work so hard for it, but I don't need it in what I do. Like, if I got went and got NAPIT to be on NAPIT, they're not going to think any less of me if I have a gold card or don't have it. They're not even going to look at my gold card. They don't care.
You're not meant to have a JRB. You're not meant to have a JRB gold card unless you're working for a JRB firm. Is the official line, I believe.
That was it back in the day. Now it's an all-in-one.
Now, isn't it?
It's a passport to get on site, basically.
So just one other bit I'd like to add to this conversation before we probably wrap up, because we're like halfway to show. We've only done one bit of the news, which is the only bit.
Yeah, don't put babies in lots.
I've noticed that, and this is uniquely. I've spotted this unique from where I sit. Yeah, I had a firm. I went back on the books and I went to work for a printers. I went to work in a power station. I went to work somewhere else. I won't talk about. And then I went to work at the generator firm. Worked at and not maliciously, not any of them to do this malicious. But I noticed that people thought I was golden handcuffed. Is that a thing now? Is everyone so much in debt that I felt like every employer was like, oh, he won't leave. He won't leave. If he moans, he won't leave. He'll just moan because he needs the money. And then when I put my notice in, people are like, what the fuck?
So I certainly, there's a certain level of desperation that you find when I was working in and around London on the big sites. There's a certain level of desperation from everyone to stay on the job because they're so desperate for money, because their earning stream is so up and down. They want to get on the job. They want to stay there. And what you find is men selling their soul to stay on a job. And that's quite disappointing to see. And I did it myself for a little bit. And then when I realized it, until I realized it, I was like, I've got to have another income stream. So as I'm not desperate anymore. I literally can't live like that.
It was only, what, 2-3 weeks ago you were saying on the podcast that you were short of money because you had no work coming in.
Yeah.
That being not self-employed, but on the like cards sort of in kind of thing, that steady stream does give you that self-security of, well, this week I've got $1,000 coming. Next week I've probably got $1,000 coming.
Is it self-security, or is it like is it Stockholm syndrome? Are you a hostage? You know what I mean?
Yeah, to the mortgage company maybe.
I've had firms in, like, I put my notes in, like, and they're literally looking at you disbelief because you put your notes in, like, how can you even do that? I'm like, well, because I don't like working for you anymore.
So there's a lot of power that comes with that.
But what I'm saying is, just to tie up before you comment on this, the two things we're saying is, one, you've paid for your own training and you sort of still paying it back, and you've got to be in that job because you paid for your own training. Added to the fact that you're in the golden handcuffs for the money, is that making the electrical industry a nice environment to work in or not?
I think you're right. I think it's all part of it. Like, I certainly like to have a float to live off. I bought that stupid truck and now I don't have a float to live off. So that was
a milk float soon.
Yeah. So the whole idea is to have a buffer. But a lot of people in the electrical industries, when I was doing the agency work and subbing in and around London, everyone was working week to week, and absolutely suffering week to week with they had to kiss ass to stay on the job for as long as possible. Everyone's running around shitting themselves. They're going to get pumped, because if they get pumped, they can't make the mortgage that month. And I couldn't live like that anymore.
And who wants to? Like I say, if you are a golden handcuffs to the repayment of your training, you couldn't get a proper apprenticeship, which I appreciate is hard work nowadays. And your employers usually golden handcuffs because you need the money, because you can't afford to go and look for another job. Like, it's not making a good working environment, is it? Which is a sorry state of affairs. And we spoke for half an hour about that. So yeah, if anyone's got any feedback on that, that probably could have been a show in itself, and probably still could be now. So come back to us.
Azuri Electrical says, Jamie, you're a dickhead, and you're fortunate that you bought your property whilst these young electricians are struggling to keep their head above water.
Right.
Yeah, arsehole.
Right. First of all, yeah.
He didn't really say that.
I was going to say, yeah. I can't respond then, can I? If he didn't really say that. But yeah.
But he did say it, but he didn't call you a dickhead or an arsehole.
I bought the first house I bought was at End Terrace. It cost me £140,000. So it's not like I got a cheap house. Like, I'm not a cheap house era. I didn't buy one back then. The reason I've got loads of money, got no mortgage, is because I fucking got stuck in and retrained within my trade about 10 times. That's what I say to anyone. Like, it's not because I'm clever, is it? Or I haven't made money from my spelling. Tell you that. So yeah. So,
I think it's like Dan. How long was you an electrician for before you decided to do the solar side of things?
14 years.
So you had it all under your belt first?
Yeah, I went to this when I was 16. Qualified by the time I was 18. And then I pretty much have been self-employed for the last 7.
Yeah, so you had to get your knowledge in, you had to get your reps in to be able to go out on your own. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I think it's incredibly important to get your reps in as early as possible. And this is the biggest problem you have with electricians' mates and retrainees and stuff like that, is they don't have the reps. All they can do is try and drag other electricians down to fill that void. I'm being pretty hard on mates tonight, aren't I?
Well, no, it's like, it's got to be spoken about, isn't it? Because no one else is going to speak about it except for us. And also, I haven't got Adobe on my computer, so I'm struggling with this thing. But no one's going to talk about it except for us. I'm not trying to run down, but the trade has changed dramatically. Mates, people paying for their own training is just massive now. Like, it's changing.
It is massive.
The JB aren't fucking banging on about it, are they? Like, it's fundamentally changed how people change, how people train. Don't know them talking about it. They've brought in a new thing they've brought in a new card for people that paid for their own train, have they? They're just ignorant to it. Like all the groups are, because we're basically a fucking, if it weren't for us shouting about stuff like this, there are very few people that will talk about stuff in the trade. And we're one of them. Like,
and I think that's what makes us credible, is the fact that we will have these conversations very open and frank, and then if we're wrong, we're wrong. Like, we will own that being wrong. But should we go on to the actual subject that we brought DMH, the Supreme Superstar, to talk about?
No one will know that the news weren't ready to that. So yeah, if anyone wants to revisit that, we'll get your feedback and come back to them. Yeah, we've got Dan on tonight. Dan, tell everyone what your name is, where you come from, and what you do.
Me, I own DMH Electrical and Renewable. I install solar panels, battery storage, and I do electrical work for the last 16 years.
There you go. I've got Dan on because he's not Mark Allison, basically, because Mark Allison's absolutely knackered from doing all his renewable stuff and talking about it. So Dan's come on for a different side of it. This document's come out. When I spoke to him the other day, here's the little thing we're going to do a little bit differently, yeah? Dan, when did you read this document?
This morning. I think about the same time. I think we read it together.
I read it also
laying
today,
in bed together.
And what I've done is, we've shared the water bottle. What I've done is I've deliberately avoided watching any other video content on this, because I don't want. Mark's done a good video on it. If you listen to this podcast, I suggest you go and watch that afterwards. It's a bit more in depth. But I wanted this to be a blind off the bat. How many pages? 40 pages.
40 pages.
And we're going to do now is for people that are just sparks and that, not necessarily fitting batches, yeah, we're just going to do what's the crack. Me and Dan Ever come up today with, there's a lot of talk about fire resistance as an impact, which we've come up with a new system to measure in, which we'll talk about later. Yeah, that new impact.
Yeah.
He knows what I'm on about that. So, right, what's the gist, Dan? You give me your rundown and I'll do mine, yeah? I'll scroll through this on the screen, but I think a lot of it, like all documents, yeah, the first 4 pages are blank and chaff and all that.
Yeah.
What's the
However,
beans?
it is quite interesting who has funded.
I'll scroll to that bit.
Do you want to hear something really funny before we start?
Yes.
My wife just messaged me because my wife and daughter are watching this inside. And my daughter said to my wife, "Why is Daddy's head rounder than everyone else's?" Yeah, how rude that is on my birthday as well, bruv.
You need to get a better lens, mate. Everyone knows 42-year-olds get round heads.
So
go on, I've thrown us. Get back to it, you idiot.
Tangent time. Right, so on the screen, I've put up what Danny's talking about. These are the people that I'll scroll gently through this if you watch an audio, but these are the people that
PAS is funded by, I believe, private bodies, isn't it? To the BSI.
Right, hold on a minute. Let's
explain it to Sam. That's a good idea.
Let's just back this up a minute, right? So are these regs or not regs?
They're not regs, the guidance, aren't they, essentially?
So it's a guidance note.
The way I understand the PAS is...
Who's PAS?
I can't remember what it stands for, but PAS is the document.
Who wrote it?
BSI.
BSI.
Oh, okay, so it's legit.
Just to inject that, good question. Stop doing that for a start. Yeah, you get them a tips when you do good questions. This is put out by the British Standard Institute, who are world renowned for BSCN numbers and all that. Yeah, we are the best.
I know who BSI are.
I'm telling them a tale, right? I'm telling them a tale. So shut up with your good questions. Yeah, give me a chance. This is not a legal document, and I've seen loads of dickheads on LinkedIn all week saying it's not a legal document. It's just guidance. It's just blah blah blah. The regulations, the wine regulations, are just guidance. They are not a legal document. So all the people on LinkedIn going, it's not a legal document, it's just guidance. So are the wine regulations. Shut up, you fucking dickheads. Thank you, that's my bit.
Sparky Ninja said it's a specification which may become a standard. Dickhead.
It's got to go. When you want to take something to eventually law, I'm guessing, or like a legitimate legal document, you don't just create a legal document. It goes through this. This begins, then it goes up to standards, regulations, that. But to insurance companies who are the big players in this, and courts, this is as good as legal. This will get what they'll use Electricity at Work regulations or the Health and Safety at Work Act to enforce this legally in a court, basically. So yeah. But anyway, Dan, you tell us about the writers.
So there's some big bodies in it, isn't there? Really, there's NIC, there's NAPIT, there's the MCS, there's Tesla. Tesla have helped write it and put into it. Loughborough, Newcastle University.
Who's Tesla?
Tesla.
Oh, Tesla. Oh, sweet shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's part of it. Not all written by Elon, I must admit, but it's come from quite a few big bodies within the electrical industry, as well as manufacturers, which was quite a surprise.
I was surprised because I hadn't read it, and I've listened to all the bump for it. Yeah, I was quite surprised to find out that a couple of manufacturers sat in it. I know Give Energy are very bitter they didn't get invited. Sorry, Give Energy, put your dummy back in. Yeah, put your tummy.
The thing with Give Energy is they've made this incredible product at an incredible price point that don't really work too well. So it's got an incredible spec and an incredible price point, but there's a lot of issues around it allegedly.
Just for a start, Give Energy, Neil's been giving them a hard time this week, so this is based on what Neil says. Neil says they've been sending out faulty goods that the neutral earth don't work, which I think is not allegedly. And they've also said, ignore all that, stick it in lofts anyway.
So they basically said stick it in loft, have take energy, and they've got faulty gateways that some switch doesn't work. And if you install it, test the backup, and it doesn't work, you've got to basically lock it out so the backup function doesn't work until Give Energy can fix it.
Allegedly, no, not allegedly, it's true. But what?
Right.
Talk about making yourself look like a dickhead. Yeah, if you talk about making yourself look like a dickhead on LinkedIn, just wading in there and going, I'll stick it in the loft anyway. You really make yourself look unprofessional doing that as a firm, I think. And I'm not very professional to start with, you know what I mean? So if I'm telling you that.
Quite interesting, and I did take this away, and it's raised a question in my head. If you can pay to the BSI to have a standard,
yeah,
why can't the Electricians Podcast pay or fund to have a pass for outdoor fuse boards.
Well, now we've upset some people. What I will say as well for people that aren't into this kind of thing, because we still discuss news on it, go publicly clear, is outdoor fuse boards in the regs, they're going to be they're not going to get outlawed because of the fact that loads of manufacturers sit on JPL 65. Whereas with this, the list here, you'd think they'd have gone, this list here, and I'll read a few, like Phil Surtshaw.
I see.
Where's the fire brigade near? Where are they? Am I missing them? The fire brigade are on here, yeah.
I mean, the IET are on it.
Me and Dan said today in a WhatsApp chat, yeah, we think the fire brigade wrote these regs. Yeah. Like the big player at this table, because remember, I got this is some inside information, yeah. You know when they do this big sit down meeting where they discuss these regs, who do you think gets sent to the meeting from all these people? Who do you think Newcastle University, Tesla, Surtshaw sent to the meeting? I'll give you a clue. It weren't the owner or the director. It could have been the fucking T-boy. It could have been anyone. So whoever shouts loudest at these meetings gets their regs. And to me, one group that will send the right people is the fire brigade, and that's why they're very fire brigade skewed. In my opinion, allegedly. So yeah, so they've all been wrote. Where's to go next, Dan? What's next?
Basically, don't put them in lofts, I think is the takeaway.
That's not a good podcast, Dan.
I mean, you ruined the first half with your whinging.
So basically, we're 6 page of 14, yeah? We've gone over who's wrote it, which is not a bad collection of people we've agreed. Oh. And I'm inclined to agree with you, having gone through this document with my highlighter. On here, I'm on page 4 now, and it says, regarding battery locations, there's a principle written here, which is, for anyone who doesn't understand legalese, it's like, here's a little bit of an output, yeah? And I'll just read these 3 bullet points. It says, batteries are separate from habitable rooms, a means of escape for inhabitants by suitable fire compartmentation. Fire detection is provided for the battery location, and a means of escape are not inhibited. They're basically the regs, aren't they? That sums up the entire regs.
Well, it does reference 511 and 511.1, doesn't it? Which is the BS number in your regs book.
Right. So with these specifications, they're clearly saying not in lofts, please. But often
they're not saying not in lofts, because me and Jamie have had this conversation as well, but we'll get to that later on. We can go to page 9, Jamie, and cover the scope.
I'm on. Oh, I keep scrolling the wrong screen. Sorry. Yeah, here's the scope. So this is what it's covering. And as you just said, Sam, they're not allowed in lofts. They're not actually allowed in your house, really. Is a general gist.
But when you have like the regs, BS 7671, you work from the regs, so you can actually use your engineering judgment to go outside of the scope of the regs, can't you? And still, if you can justify what you've done, you can still be fine with it. Okay, you don't actually have to do it to the actual letter of the regs. That's why, and they're written to be vague, so as you can use your engineering judgment to fill those gaps.
But you can make departures from the regs on anyway. As long as
so with this, is there the same sort of thing applied to this, or is this like, listen, don't put it in lofts or don't put it in people's houses right now, because like you could do it, but I wouldn't do it. Well, because it's going to become illegal, or it's going to be you're going to be on the hook for it, or something like that. Is this like a prelude warning to a big hammer that's coming down on placement of batteries?
No one's died yet. So I was at a house this week, and they had a Fox battery system with what I would call like the rack mounted batteries under the stairs. Who would put anything under the stairs? Because your stairs in most houses, you've only got one set.
Yeah.
So, like, who would do that? At least
you didn't answer my question. You just said something. Well, Dan, answer my question. Is this a prelude to a bigger crackdown on it? Like the hammer's going to drop on it? Like,
I think so.
Is this like a nice little warning? Stop doing that because this is going to drop.
So the way I understand this is a band-aid to a problem before it becomes any bigger, before they make it something.
No one's died yet. That's the thing. This is a very good set of regulations that has actually preceded someone dying, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So like normally this has come
we
out normally
recognise
after someone has died, but no one's died from to do this, which I think is quite a strong thing to do.
we basically recognise there's a problem. We're going to try and mitigate it before there is. Is how I see it. Anyway.
What does this mean for installs that have already happened? Will you be liable going forward if it all goes wrong, or is it like a grace period now?
No, 31st of March, that was it, draw a line under it. Any installs previous to that, fine. Any installs basically from the 1st of this month
And
should be followed.
So we've had these discussions before about these batteries in lofts, and Jamie's been quite vocal on why you shouldn't do it. And then when we had this discussion with EV Nick sort of blew apart Jamie's concerns with things like the batteries aren't that
I got to
dangerous.
there, right?
Wait, hold on. They're not that dangerous. Also, you have a water tank in most lofts that weighs as much as the batteries do. What are you moaning about? Type thing. So why is this such a problem?
I want to chip in there. Yeah, I've never, and I keep getting this thrown at me. Yeah, every time I say batteries shouldn't be in lofts, people automatically go on about fire. I'm not talking about fire. If you have a fire in your loft, it's probably the best place for it. I'm on about the weight, the smoke, and all that. So I'm not always on about fire. I'm on about if you have a problem in your house that's not related to the battery, and a battery comes crashing through your ceiling, you're going to be in trouble. So I'm not all about the fire, and I never have been. And we need to.
But the counter argument to that is you've got a water tank in your house.
Yeah, but when a water tank collapses, it just lets out a load of water. It doesn't fall through in one big massive lump. The collapsible designs, a water tank's designed to collapse and let the liquid fall out on its own, not just to come through in one huge lump, or provide fuel to a fire that may be underneath it.
A solar edge battery is 120 kg.
Also, a quick one is, if you are a firm putting batteries in lofts, yeah, how are you mitigating that risk for your employees? What about the fact that someone could get killed lifting a battery into a loft because there's no structure in a loft to use mechanical means? So you're up there pulling a battery up and you drop it on your mate and he gets killed. How is a company doing risk assessments, method statements, and lifting plans?
That's a good shout. That is a good shout.
Batteries into lofts. Also, gable end. When you've got a brick wall, it's not that strong. Cement is not that strong. Yeah, bricks on top of bricks makes it strong. A gable end, that's the triangle bit. It's not structural.
No,
it's not a structural thing. You can slap probably a ton of weight onto your living room wall, no problem, because the bricks on top push it down under compression. Yeah, your gable end has got no compression. It's got nothing on top of it. You slap a ton on that. If there's a little bit of wind, it oscillates. It's going to fall off. So, like, you're fitting to things that aren't designed to be fitted to. There's all of that everyone's saying, goes, oh, fire, 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 fire. Like, forget about the fire.
So Dan, what is the main reason this is being spec'd?
For me, and it's like me and James spoke about earlier, it is firemen. I believe it's firemen and getting you out of the house safely should the worst happen. I don't think it's not to stop batteries catching fire. It's not to stop batteries falling through ceilings. It's to give you the chance to get out of the building safely in case it does.
I've got to be honest, I don't like the idea of having hundreds and hundreds of kilos above my head when I'm sleeping at night that could come crashing through, whether it's over my bed or over my daughter's bed. I know it's incredibly unlikely that that's going to happen, but I still don't like that idea,
Do you know what happens quite regular that no one hears about? And here's a prime example, yeah? If you've got a bit of bad plumbing, the water in your header tank in your loft, the plastic tank in your loft, that can boil. And I've heard about 3 instances where they have melted and sent scalding hot water through ceiling and killed children. It's happened about 3 times in the last 5 years, yeah? Does anyone know about it? No. Because it's not really that interesting as news. Dead kid, so what? That is happening. And that is, they brought plumbing in to stop that happening. If someone's battery crashes through a lock because of bad fixings, unless it kills a child, no one's going to hear about it. No one's going to talk about it.
Look at it another way, though. So the battery's permanently fixed into the loft. The battery's perfectly fine, but a electric heater catches fire downstairs in a bedroom or on a landing. It burns through the fire barrier into your loft. The battery's perfectly fine, but then that weight comes down while you're trying to escape, and then you can't get out of the building.
That'd knock your stairs out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or it would block something or fall behind the door, or that's what this document in my opinion, is trying to mitigate.
And new
It's
build lofts, like in the good old days.
Oh, mate, they're 600 apart as well now.
There's a firm called Trust Tech. I'm not knocking them. They make lofts, yeah, and you can go to them and they'll make you the roof for a house, and you can specify the loadings. And I'm not being funny, but cost cutting, they can have the minimum amount of trusses as far apart as they
Yep.
can. So
Yep.
then I have allegedly, and I'm sure someone can back this up. I can't actually back it up though, but I've heard a lot of firms saying can't use loft for storage. It's not designed for storage. Like,
It's
don't put
100% true.
there.
On the new builds I was working on round the corner, you couldn't use it for storage.
No, new builds will tell you straight off. NHBC won't cover a structure or the loft if you've been storing maintenance.
They won't sign it off.
And obviously, you get a new build, and they have these blokes going around putting leaflets through the door saying, "Oh, I'll board your loft out for you, so you can use it as storage." And then how much does chipboard weigh? So you board the loft out, you've put probably, I don't know, 200 kilos of chipboard in there. Then you'll have a battery on top. Then your gable end falls out.
So 100 kg of battery in the loft. What do you have when you most likely have a battery?
Some sort of inverter thing.
No, keep going above the roof.
Oh, solar.
Solar. So 10 panels at 20 kg a panel, there's another 200 kg on top of the roof without the mounting equipment.
And they've spec that roof for the actual whatever tiles they've used, haven't they? Not any extra. It's all down to price. They don't want to use any thicker than they have to.
Just in battery and panels, you could be pushing a third of a ton.
Do you remember when I said to you, when you done the last podcast, and I said to you, how do you know that the structural integrity of that roof will be able to take the panels? And you said we inspect it, right?
We can take the distance of the trusses apart. We can take the depth of the roof trusses, and there is maths in a book somewhere. Software that does it for you that will calculate the weight.
So doesn't that omit this problem that we're talking about here?
I don't believe it. It only proclaims to the panels and what goes on top of the roof, because you're putting the batteries on this bit, aren't you? Inside the triangle, not on top of your triangle.
Because then you're not using the triangle. I just want one thing I want to get across on this is like, can we just stop going straight to fire? Although these regs have clearly been written by the fire brigade, can we just, when we're installing, we need to think about structure and all the other things, yeah? And what we'll say about firemen is, the fire brigade van gets to your house and they look at your house, they assess it. They'll, in their head, because they're experienced there, they'll look at the house and go, probably got about 20 minutes left before that roof caves in. Because that's what firemen do. They understand how structured and how on fire it is. And they'll go, if someone's in there, we've got about 20 minutes for that thing caves, and they'll run in there with breathing apparatus on, yeah? And what we don't want is a fucking 200 kilo battery falling through the loft onto a fireman. And that's why the fire people have been so strong on this.
Also, Steve Tunnicliffe says that's without wind and snow. So when it snows, that's a massive problem as well, because that snow's a lot heavier than it looks.
I know it's not a nice one to go back to, but 9/11 and what actually killed most of the firefighters that ran into the towers. It wasn't fire, it wasn't smoke. It was the inability to get out when the buildings came down.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, because it just went, didn't it? It all just collapsed.
That is the same principle of this. If you can't get out the building safely, or fire and personnel can't get in safely, you're bollocks.
But is this one of them things that we're like? Is this another one of these hype situations, like where we are just making a big song and dance about it when it's not really going to happen? Like, what's the chances of this happening?
Well, don't have RCDs then. Like, it's not a very common situation.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of situations in the electrical industry that are like, oh, this could happen, that could happen. You're like, oh, fuck off, mate. Like,
But if you go down to page 9, which I think Jamie has still got open, and what the PAS doesn't cover is domestic dwellings over 200 square meters.
Oh, so if you've got a monster house, like,
if you're rich, you can afford. You've got 2 fires.
What's the takeaway then? I'm not scrubbing anymore, yeah? For sparkies who are doing batteries or thinking about batteries or finding batteries, want to offer advice, yeah? Let's puddle this up. So my thing would be, think about the structure, think about evacuation, and just think about maintenance and getting to the batteries and stuff like that. That's what I've always said, and that's what it does wrap that up in here. What's your take?
I'm just trying to find the page where it talks about where they should be installed, and
Oh, it's right at the back in it. It's right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Hang on.
you've got to go through 15 pages.
You
of
find that, and me and Sam will fill like we do.
So personally, I would have thought, like, if I was going to do a installation of batteries for solar PV, I would always try and put it outside in some kind of like lean-to or some sort of purpose-built enclosure, just because that's where I'd want my batteries. Ain't no one coming to rob them and running off down the road with 100 kilos worth of batteries, especially if you bolt them down. It's not as if that's going to get robbed, but it's nice. I would rather have that outside or in a garage.
You can have it in your garage as well, can't you?
You can't.
You can if you meet certain criteria, can't you?
Certain criteria. So if you're installing batteries outside, they have to be 1,000 away from any doors, windows, or ventilation ports to other locations.
Hands up, hands up. Mine are now non-compliant because mine are within 1 meter of a window.
Yep. Which is very much like R29 gas in an air source heat pump. You can't have that near doors and windows either.
Also, these spaces that comply with these things are getting used for air source heat pumps and other stuff. It's like this is good real estate on your house.
R29 gas that's in a heat pump is basically propane, so you can't have that near windows, doors, or vents.
So that to me is not a massive problem, because if you're building a purpose-built enclosure, like you can have it a meter away from your house and then just have a bit of ducting and then up the wall. Like, to be honest with you, if you're installing this sort of stuff, I don't really see the problem with putting it outside. I think I would prefer it outside. My mum and dad had a solar putting on theirs, and they've got it in their garage. Now their garage is just basically a shed on the side of the house, so that's probably why it's compliant there, isn't it?
Yes, I'll tell you what as well.
You have to fire seal how them cables enter that house as well.
I found
I don't think it goes in the house. I think it goes up and then straight on, because it's a bungalow. So I think it goes straight out of the roof of the garage into the
I found the page. I'll read something out here for all of you. But one thing as well is I just think it's important to say is, like, now there's some regulation. The batteries, they just seem to be like suitcases that screw to the wall. Yeah, does that make sense? That's the physical, right? So someone somewhere's gone, it'd be right, like a suitcase you fit to the wall. Now these regulations have come out specifying where they can and can't be fitted. Manufacturers will manufacture batteries differently. So why don't they make them like a crate that just sits in your garden on some slabs? Like an air conditioning unit. Yeah. So now there is guidance. They have got a range to do that.
Do you know what's hilarious? RLF vacuum cleaners, who joined us last week, he said plant room or outside storage for batteries is just like having a privy or coal shed, which is hilarious. It's like you've gone full circle.
I literally looked at putting mine in the old outdoor toilet. That's where I looked at putting mine, down the end of the garden. But then I've got a toilet in it, so I want it. I'll just read these out to find them. Basically, this is the big hoo-ha of these regs, yeah, and it's 6.5.5. I was looking for it, yeah, in the book. This document's a nightmare to get your hands on. You have to just sign up for the website. But it says batteries shall not be installed in any of the following locations. Kudos to BSI for spreading this list over 2 pages. I really hate that when it's an important part of the document. It says rooms which in persons are intended to sleep. I don't think anyone could argue with that.
No.
If the gas off as well, then that's great. Routes used as a means of escape that are not defined as protected escape routes, including landings, staircases, and corridors. Fair enough. Corridors, shafts, stairs, or lobbies are protected escape routes. Someone's probably tried to put them on the stairs before. Firefighting lobbies, shafts, or staircases. Storage cupboards, enclosures, or spaces opening to rooms into which person intends to sleep.
Not the wardrobe, then.
Not the wardrobe yet, but that's covering like airing cupboards, isn't it?
This is all like common sense shit, though, isn't it?
Completely. Stop making good points. I've warned you about this before, yeah? I'll not stand for it anymore. Outdoor, ground-mounted or wall-mounted, in a suitable enclosure, not allowed outdoors, ground-mounted or wall-mounted. Ground-mounted is going to become a thing. Within 1 meter of escape routes, doors, windows, or ventilation ports. Just to add to that as well, they said you've got the battery got to be in a well-ventilated area as well now. They're not allowed in voids, roof spaces, or lofts. Within 2 meters of stored flammable materials, fuel storage tanks or cylinders, which is basically I'm guessing
Oil,
that's
LPG
we've got
tanks.
oil and propane, yeah,
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
countryside. Cellars or basements that have no access to the outside of the building.
I see. I wouldn't want to put it in a cellar or basement just in case it went off, and that's your whole house gone, isn't it?
Well,
Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't want it because also if it lets out gases or one of the batteries gets, it's all going up, isn't it? Like no, I just don't want that potential underneath my house. But saying that, a lot of boilers are like in basements and stuff like that. There's a lot of potential for explosion with them and stuff. I don't know.
I
Are
think
we
the
being
future,
too precious about it?
I think the future of these is, air conditioning units that just sit on some slabs. That's it. Like, why have they got to be screwed? Why are you utilising my wall? Why are you screwing shit to my wall? Just down my garden, put a couple of slabs in,
Yeah,
slap this big box on top of it, put a cable
yeah.
to it. It sits there. If it goes, it's in the middle of my garden. I think that old wall mount thing, like, it's just someone's made a wall mount when everyone's gone, oh, it's mounted to a wall. That's a good idea. Like, get off my walls. I think that's the way it's going. There'll just be a
And
box.
even if you made like a unistrut bracket to like, and then postcreated the unistrut into the ground and then used it as like a bracket to put it to, and then built an enclosure around it. Still a nice job. It's not going to look horrible. I think having an outside power plant is a lot better.
What's that?
That enclosure, if you do put them in an enclosure, that enclosure has to be ventilated now.
Again, makes sense.
There's also, as everyone, people have started.
Hold on. Sorry. If you're this is a drawback. If you're putting batteries in an outside enclosure, you're going to have them heat regulated because of winter. Because then you're like, if you've got a sunny day in the winter and your batteries are freezing cold, you're not going to have the same output.
My battery's IP65 already. I don't know if it has its own heater in, but I think the charging and discharge cycle create natural heat. And I think they work on that. So
yeah, but it's like when you have a Tesla's range goes down by like 70 miles.
Yes, but it's moving into it in here. It's being cooled, whereas a battery stationary and will retain to its heat. I don't know. It's interesting point, but my battery's IP65. It does do a bit less in winter. I will give you that, but not as much bad as a car.
Interesting. It's one of them things that like it does require a lot of thought going into it now. Dan, interesting question for you. Do you see this being the end of this sort of slap it in, get out sort of mentality that they have that a lot of companies have with solar at the moment? It's like, let's get in, get out, get it done. Do you think this is going to stop that?
No.
No?
They'll still end up in lofts. They'll still end up in bedrooms. They'll still end up in kitchens.
Or bathrooms, Gary Hayes.
I mean, how many people have to die before people start caring? And even then, do people just give a shit like
that? No, listen, I don't care about people dying or anything like that. It's an interesting conversation.
Sorry, Dan, go on.
Downstairs as an example, right? It's not a habitable room. You don't sleep in it. Mm. It opens. It's not a fire escape.
Yeah.
It doesn't open onto a fire escape. And it's ventilated because it'll have an extraction fan in it.
And if you put a fire door on it, you're well away, aren't you, really?
Fire door, it's probably 15 mil gyprock boarded and skimmed, which means it's 30-minute fire barrier. It's probably, funny enough, the best place for it.
I think outdoors. You're right. I think outdoors the best, but I mean, we've had this really weird situation the past couple of years where things that normally were indoors were going outdoors, and things that were outdoors were going indoors. Like, no one would want a load of batteries in their ass. Now they're willing to put them in a loft, and no one would want a fuse board outside. It's the other way around. But it's still we're still in the wild west of this. We still got to have all the problems come out. But you're not far off wrong there.
I read this document earlier today, and I literally sat with a drawing of my house, and I went, no. There's nowhere internally on my house that could go.
No, mine neither.
Thinking about mine, there is. I could convert
the shed. Can you have? Are you allowed to have batteries in a podcast studio?
Sorry, Dan.
No, because you were saying convert inside your house as it sits already. Can you actually think? Can you actually think of somewhere in your house that you could site them?
Why can't they?
I don't know. I don't really. I've got the perfect place for it, but I don't know if it. So my house is a bit weird. So in the living room, you've got the French doors at the back, and then next to them, you've got like a cupboard that is literally, I don't know, 50 500 deep, but it's quite a big, like quite a long cupboard. You could stick some batteries in there.
Just put them in wheelie bins. Just supply batteries in a wheelie bin. You wheel it down your drive and plug it in with a commando socket. Like, what's wrong? Why wouldn't that work? Just wheel it down the drive, put it in your garden, knock the wheels off or make the wheels removable. Just leave the fucking thing sat there. Plug it into a commando socket. Bosh. Wireless CT. Done. Modular.
Yeah, it's easier to nick though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the problem. People always nick stuff, but they are quite weight without the wheels on. But we've got to rethink the package, not the batteries. Batteries will always be batteries. Solar's always been solar. This is the packaging we need to rethink, I think.
On my driveway, at the bottom of the driveway, I've got my shed, and in there's all my stores and materials and stuff.
Mechanical impact protection.
But you could put a battery in there. But with the batteries and like DC to AC and all that, I'm not technical enough to know this, but is there a significant drop off? Do you have to have, like, I don't know, cable as thick as your arm to be able to get the power in and out? Is that an issue, or is it not an issue at that level?
It's not that far, is it? Not this level, I don't think.
No, lower voltage batteries need bigger cables. But I mean, I'm going to use Solar Edge's batteries as an example. That can go 50 meters.
So it's not an issue putting that outside the house. So what are the hot takes from this document? What's the number one hot take from this document?
Lofts
and bedrooms and fire escapes is basically it. And if it is going to go inside, make sure it's got a 30-minute fire barrier.
What is the consequences of not adhering to these new specs?
Getting slandered on Instagram? I don't know. Not a
it
lot,
will
really.
get used. It will. People are going to use something to reference, and this document will become a de facto standard. Simple as that.
So what about this, right? So you go and install it for Dorothy and Peter. They got a house in Herne Bay. You go down there, you do an installation, you put it in the loft, right? You're not aware of this new document. Jamie's gone. You put it in a loft and you're not aware of this new document. Could they then take you to court because they've read this document? 2 weeks later, they read the document and go, "Why it's in our loft? It shouldn't be in our loft." Can they take you to court to move that installation?
I guess they could come back with it, couldn't they? If you'd read something as a consumer, and you would expect your installer to know it, then I'd expect them to come back and question it.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. I don't really know what the consequences are. Like,
would you expect an installer to know about it?
Well, yeah, you have to know. Like, I expect if I was to employ you to put solar on my house, I best not be able to trip you up with a question. You need to know your game inside. Now, someone says to me about fitting a fuse board, and I don't know what and they ask me a question, I can't answer it. They're gonna have no confidence in what I'm doing.
Isn't it? But it's due diligence.
But again, there's people today, and there has been people over the last couple of weeks who didn't know nothing about it.
Why did people know? I thought this was like common knowledge. They didn't keep it secret.
No.
If you're on, there's been a few people, a number of firms this week who do renewables on Instagram saying, "Well, I didn't know anything about it. Why don't you just go online and say you shit?"
I was saying point in case he didn't know about it till this week.
You know, if you didn't know about it, keep your fucking mouth shut and act like you did. Like, don't go around telling people you don't know what the regulations are for the very job you're doing. Like, if I didn't know about it, I'd have been like, "Yeah, of course I fucking did." You know what I mean? Don't let on. Social media's powerful tool. That's the one is your customer go, "Well, he didn't know about it. How good's he?" Fucking hell, come on. Someone put out the draft for public comment was out. They've released a document. Like, get on top of it.
It's a funny one. It is a funny one. I don't really.
I mean, on the bottom of it, it does now have a check sheet for the end of your install. Have you complied with this document? It has new labels for there's battery installations to put on your meter intake for firemen when they come and rip the fuse out before they start dousing water.
And do you know when they brought in? Making seatbelts legal, and they brought in that you could only drink half a pint of lager before you drove a car. everyone was going, "Oh, this is fucking ridiculous." Same thing in it. When regulations come in, people are going to hate on them, but eventually they're going to work for them.
No one likes
manageable.
change. No one likes change. Steve Tunnicliffe says, as of now, installers need to. Liability is awkward, as the Zappy thing shows. So that's quite a good segue for us to just quickly cover the whole My Energy problem that's going on. I know we spoke about Give Energy, but one of the news things this week was going to be around the My Energy and what's going on with that.
Which was the instructions being wrong and not warranted and stuff like that, weren't it? Basically, if you hadn't seen the other shows.
Yeah, so they've got a whole issue around the warranty side of things and RCDs not being compliant because they're digital and not analog. Is that right?
It's because they were saying you don't need an RCD, and it turns out you do if you want a warranty claim. Was the problem?
But don't they have a digital RCD rather than a
yeah? They've got some.
one?
They've got some cooker nanny RCDO in them that's not recognised because the regs only recognise a physical device with a BS number on it. Again, so now we're in BS documents. This is a BS document. The EV people say, no, we only recognise BSEN RCBOs, which are cased RCBOs in a fuse board style environment, not some electronic gubbins that's on your PCB that no one knows about.
Basically. So we are going to be having, we're in talks to have My Energy on to talk about some of these problems. So it's quite good to keep it fresh in our minds. And they may be coming on to have this conversation. It's quite exciting.
So Anjo further there, the insurance companies, that's what's going to boil down to. Like, if your battery comes crashing through your loft and no one gets injured, it's just some bad fixings or you gave blend force or something like that, and it ends up in your bath, crashes through your bath and floods your ass, your insurance company's going to come around, they're going to go, we're not paying for this.
That's true. That is a consequence.
But then also, if it goes through the ceiling and kills a child, your public liability insurance is going to come around and go, we're not paying for this.
Yeah, you did.
Because they'll use this document. They'll say, well, it's best practice. What kind of party are you?
Does this come down to manufacturer's instructions then?
No, they're literally saying, don't matter what manufacturer instructions say or what Give Energy is saying on LinkedIn this week. They're saying, do not put in lofts. And they're British Standards Institute. They've got 75 to 100 years of weight behind them. So
yeah, but like,
them on,
isn't ultimately in like the court of law, fitting it to manufacturer's instructions is the precedent.
It says in this document by BSI, and I'll read it out so everyone's aware. It says batteries shall not be installed in the following locations, and it's details loss. Yeah, that's the British standard document. So, like, if a manufacturer puts in their no manufacturer is going to put in their instructions after this Zap incident, particularly. No one's going to put, we think our product's fine in a loft, because that's a liability. Anything goes wrong in a loft, then that manufacturer is liable. They will never tell you where to put it. They'll give you a guidance of where to put it based on vague numbers.
So Give Energy dropped the ball this week. They didn't know about this document, which is mental, and they told people on LinkedIn.
They did.
I know they didn't know.
So they dropped the ball. So their manufacturer that then puts a liability on them. Even like
I've screenshotted that them saying you can still put our batteries in lofts, and if anyone gets injured by Give Any battery, I'll be giving them that screenshot going, mate, use this. Have you got a back scratcher out for audio viewers?
Oh, it's a knife, and I want to scratch my back. It's really
so
itchy.
Yeah, they put on LinkedIn ads. They should go to their LinkedIn page and screenshot that, because if you ever have a problem with the Give Energy battery in a loft, whether it's overeating, undereating, getting cold, getting damp, getting wet, falling through the ceiling, killing someone, they've just put out on their LinkedIn a document that says, yeah, it's fine, we can deal with that. It's not a problem. So all the liability's on them now. Very stupid thing that I believe someone in their PR department did there.
Could this whole document, and like you say, the fire brigade have been quite, your theory is the fire brigade have been quite instrumental in it. Do you think that this, and take this for what it is a thought, do you think this is the firefighters or the fire brigade just being precious? Like, that could be a problem, so we're gonna lobby to outlaw it, even though it might not be a problem.
You know, in the past 10 years, the London Fire Brigade have done more for electrical safety in the UK than the NIC, NAPIT, the IET, and the ECA put together.
I'm just having that thought. I'm like, is this them being precious about?
No, they're doing more for the safety of electrical installations than any of the people that should be.
Fair enough. That's me sharp then.
Well, I'm just,
Think about it. Metal fixings, fire brigade, so
yeah.
you can get in and out of an emergency. Not putting batteries that could be on fire or potential to catch fire in emergency exits, getting life in and out of a building, or someone to come and help you and your family. It all comes. Forget about the home insurance side of it. Forget about damaging the roof and all that shit. It's all to protect life.
Common sense approach to a problem that could happen. It is just common sense, really, isn't it? Don't put that 200 kilo flammable device in your loft. It's nuts.
You know why I should listen to the fire brigade as well? Because, like I say, Dan said they were big on pushing testing. They pushed pat testing. They pushed fire alarms in dwellings all the time. Full fire alarm systems in student flats. That's them. Not putting batteries in lofts. Yeah, the fire brigade doing more than anyone because they see corpses. That's why.
ALO Electrical and Security have made a good point. So, what happens with all the current batteries in lofts? Do they need to removing, or will it affect their insurance or the people's insurance on the house? If they've got, and it's a great point, because if you've got a battery installed in your loft when you go for home insurance companies are all over things like this. They're going to put your premium up because it's in the loft, just because they can, because of this document. Do you think that's the thing?
This document came into effect on the 31st of March. If they're going to, it's a good question. If they're going to question it and put your premiums up, does it then put it back on the homeowner to have their installation altered at their expense?
Of course it will. Yeah, 100% it will.
Do you know what it is going to show?
Do you pay the premium, or do you pay them? Is it cheaper to pay the premium over, say, I don't know, 10 years, or is it cheaper to have the battery relocated?
It's moved.
Do you know what it will show up on? House surveys. So when you have your house survey, the mortgage will come and go, yeah, your roof's knackered, one of the windows is broken. Oh, by the way, there's a fucking massive battery in the loft. And the mortgage company might go, no, we don't want it. Don't want the risk.
That's another thing. Mortgages coming forward,
The mortgage company take out insurance for their liabilities, and they will go, well, you've got to get the roof fixed, whatever, we're not giving the mortgage. And they might go, yeah, you need to get a battery out of the loft. And also, at the end of a serviceable life, the battery's got to come out of the loft. And I give you a clue, when the battery's empty, it don't weigh any less. So after 10 years, you've got to get a weighty battery out of your loft and then swap it for a new one or put it somewhere else. So
how many
we've not done the 10 years yet.
Percentage of the last 5 years have gone in the loft, though? I don't think there's as many as people.
I reckon it'd be a lot more than you think.
I do, because
more or less than 50%.
I reckon it'd be north of 60%.
Pyronic batteries, weren't it? You know, the rack mount batteries, they were lobbing them in on bits of wood. And they were very common early on. And a lot of the shysters were like Parlotech batteries, because they like, for anyone who don't know what Parlotech batteries, it's a briefcase sized battery. It weighs about 50, 60 kg. So you can lob them through the loft and then stack them up 5 high. So there's a lot of them kicking around. They're not the greatest way of doing it, to be honest, in my opinion.
One thing this document doesn't cover is second life batteries. So EV batteries being used as house batteries is not covered by this document.
Libby also says it could put, like, what will be the result of it with EICRs? So when you're doing EICR on a property and you inspect it, will that be a fail? Will that be a limitation? Will that be whatever it is?
So I'd have said this document came into, I'm going to say it again, came into effect on the 31st of March. If you went to an EICR on a 17th edition board and it tested out perfectly fine and there was no alterations from the day that was installed, could you give it an unsatisfactory?
Well, you could argue that about a 14th edition installation, though, couldn't you, if it was perfect?
Of course you can. You can still put reliable fuses in and set them off as satisfactory, but that's why it's got a date on it. If you go back to the MyEnergy issue, they never had a date on their documents.
Never have a date on. The one thing is, though, is no matter how good it is or how much it's to the regs at the time, no self-respecting, decent EICR is not going to note it as a comment.
No.
Because they're just going to put batteries in the loft, by the way. That don't comply with the current regulations, but it might have been all right at the time.
Someone just said you also need to move the inverter, as some brands only allow a maximum of 5 meters cable.
Yep. It's all down to, as Sam's alluded to earlier, I think personally a lot of it's common sense. all right, my own installation don't comply, but I think people
Your
need to start-
installation's an abomination, and you know it is.
I know it's because I'm a sparky doing electrical coming house, but I think people need to think more about, as I keep saying, design, life cycle, replacement, maintenance, and all that. And I think this document is pushing people the right way. I think the people that are shouting on LinkedIn about how bad it is are mainly, allegedly, shysters sticking batteries in lofts for quick cash.
I think this is going to be a lot like the Fender's certificate when people are buying and selling the house. So a Fender's certificate on your windows is required by the solicitors now all of the time.
Oh, you've brought up a good point again. Stop doing this.
Yes, cover batteries, don't they?
MCS will stop it straight away, won't they? MCS are going to make you comply with this straight away.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you sell your house, and if you haven't got a Fender's certificate, at last knock-ins they go, oh, you need to get a Fender's certificate, and then it takes 2 weeks to find someone to come around and retrospectively do a certificate. Will this be the same thing when it comes to mortgages and stuff? Last minute, the solicitors go, you've got one mounted in your loft. What have you like? We need some sort of accreditation, or we need some sort of fail-safe insurance on it, or something like that. So you have to take out insurance. That's not going to go wrong over the next 10 years, because sometimes people have to take out insurance for their Fender certificate, if they can't get a Fender certificate, they have to pay like a nominal fee for an insurance about the windows, don't they?
So Roscoe's put in the chat, bottom line is all this kit all being pushed out, but it's only after a few years the problems get ironed out. And he's right. We're on the learning curve. We're in the Wild West.
Fastest moving technology in the electrical game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good conversation, because there's a lot of like variables that's going to come out in the future, and we can do all the speculation you like. Often a lot of these things just be like blah blah, and if like the important people like insurance companies and mortgage companies and solicitors don't get wind of it or make it into a thing, it won't be a thing.
Or even what about just I'm going to call them Boggo domestic sparkies that go around doing the ICRs, FOSS listers and that have no interest in electrical, sort of renewable side of it. Are they going to be aware of it?
Exactly. Well, they listen to this podcast, so they will be,
Well, cool, let's wrap it up so I'm getting tired, but good or bad? Is this document good or bad?
It's good.
It's good.
Yeah. And I think anyone that's disagreeing with that you should consider, if you Google whoever's going to install your system and look at what they said on LinkedIn and said, oh, I hate this document, then I think you need to consider what kind of installer you're using.
But what I'll caveat that with, putting it in a loft, yeah, you can put it in a loft, it's fine. Probably will never ever go wrong, probably not going to fall through, probably not going to kill no one. But is it good common sense to put it in a loft? No, it's not. It's dumb.
Yeah.
I said to Jamie earlier, I said, what happens if you board that loft out so it's a room, no different to a bedroom? Is it then still a loft, or is it a room with a 30-minute fire barrier?
It's not a habitable room, I think, with the building regulation. So if you do it to the floor, to the regs, the floor to the regs, the walls to the regs, plaster it the lot, but you don't have stairs into it, or you don't have stairs that are compliant into it, it gets classed as a non-habitable room. So yeah, you could then do it, couldn't you?
And then that's not covered under regs, because when we've done the garage conversion, it's separate to the house, and because it didn't have the gas supply going to it and stuff like that, and he wasn't sleeping in it, it doesn't come under the regs.
You don't need building control.
Building control, yes.
That was just me raising the question of, well, what happens if you do this? It wasn't me saying, oh, well, you board your loft out there.
No, you're right. But again, that comes back down to can the joists take it? Can the roof take it? Have you got any major structural stuff? And it boils back down to the same things we're saying is there's fire from the battery, fire from the house to the battery, structural, blah, 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 and it all rolls on and off, and it's just the same thing. So yeah, just design, innit? Thinking about stuff. But a lot of people are just sales.
It's not a fire. I watched a video that I think I sent to you yesterday. One of the gases that's let off some hydrogen cyanide.
Decent.
Tasty.
I mean, that's good stuff.
That'll give you a buzz.
And that's a good point, yeah. You know when carbon monoxide alarms come out, oh, I'm not getting one of them, my fire's been fired. And I read at the weekend, some guy got fire in his arse and his dog both dead because the flue was blocked. Like a carbon monoxide alarm's 30 quid. Well, less than that, a tenner. It's like, but when they come out, oh, I'm not buying one of them. I've been all right since. I ain't died yet. And it's just the same thing, innit? Like, pay money, take your chances.
Hashtag not dead. Do you remember that?
Oh, don't get that started again.
Right. let's wrap this up, boys. Good. Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a good one. I've really enjoyed this conversation, even though I wasn't really up for it. I'm glad I did it.
Thank you to the 190 or almost 200 people regularly throughout that chat, and all the listeners and all the comments, all the feedback. Thank you very much. Without that, we are pretty much shite.
Electricians Podcast.
Say bye-bye, Dan.
Out.
Bye.